Today, we once again dive into the world of animals, this time exploring their unusual and, at first glance, strange behavior. Make yourself comfortable. We begin. In winter, the inhabitants of the Kalahari feel this especially strongly. At dawn, temperatures drop so low that insects barely fly. This is a serious problem for the fork-tailed drongo, one of the cleverest birds of the desert. But it has a plan. The drongo is the master trickster of the Kalahari. Its victims, a family of meerkats, experts at surviving harsh conditions. After warming up in the morning sun, the meerkats go in search of breakfast. And now the drongo can begin its game. First, it needs to earn their trust. Spotting a hunting eagle, the drongo gives a warning call. The meerkats gratefully dive into their burrows. When the danger passes, they come out again and resume their hunt. Now the drongo has become their reliable lookout. And that's when it starts taking advantage. It waits for a meerkat to catch prey, then calls out another alarm. This time, it's a lie. The meerkats drop their food and run, and the drongo quickly swoops in to steal the meal. This goes on for a while, until the meerkats finally realize they're being deceived. They stop reacting to the false alarm. The drongo tries again, no success. It watches from a tree as the meerkats catch a juicy scorpion. The bird clearly wants the prize, but can't reach it. Then suddenly, another alarm call rings out. The meerkats instantly flee because sentinels never lie. But the real sentinel is silent, which means it's the drongo again. It has learned to imitate the warning call of the meerkat lookout, a skill that astonishes scientists. This is how it gets its food. And although the drongo turns to deception in winter, for most of the year it honestly protects the meerkats. In the long run, both sides still benefit. We now move to the misty forests of the Andes. Here, live creatures that obtain food in yet another unusual way. Sometimes you can witness a spectacular sight. Several bears perched high in trees, up to 30 meters above the ground. These are spectacled bears, a very rare species. They eat leaves and fruit, but to reach the fruit, they use a remarkable technique. Imagine the last fruit on a treetop. The branch is too thin to support the bear's weight, and competitors are already circling below. Then the bear uses a clever trick. It breaks the branch just enough for it to bend downward to a reachable height. Then it climbs down and races to grab the fallen fruit before anyone else. In general, almost all bear species are extremely intelligent animals. Just remember how they catch salmon during spawning. They simply open their mouths and the fish jumps right in. Caimans act similarly. During the rainy season, the river fills up and the caimans lie in the water with their jaws wide open, waiting for fish to swim in on their own. All reptiles are masters of saving energy, but these ones are true tricksters, creatures who have broken the system. Now we move to another desert, the Californian one. Here too, live clever deceivers who force other species to raise their young. This is the parasitic spy fly. It has an exceptional ability to find hosts. The process begins simply. A female bee digs a small burrow and lays her eggs inside. Perfect conditions, not too hot, not too cold. 6 weeks later, fly larvae hatch, but around them lies scorching sand, and they desperately need food. Their salvation comes from teamwork. The larvae climb up a tall stem and huddle together at the top, where a remarkable scene unfolds. They need someone to pick them up and carry them away. They'll latch onto a human finger if they must, but they are waiting for a bee. A male bee arrives. The larvae release pheromones that perfectly mimic the scent of a female. Confused, the male lands on the stem, and the larvae cling to him. He flies off and soon finds a real female. During mating, the passengers crawl onto her. The female returns to her burrow to lay eggs, unaware that she carries tiny infiltrators. The fly larvae end up in the perfect spot, safe, filled with pollen, and with a bee larva to eat. They start by feeding on pollen, and then consume the bee larva, a brilliant act of deception. But the boldest trick belongs to a female of one particular mantis species. We know that female mantises often eat males during or after mating, but the false garden mantis goes even further. This female never intends to mate, she's simply hungry. She releases pheromones to attract a male and eats him without mating at all. She uses mating scent purely as a hunting tool, an incredible deception, but one that gives her the strength to eventually mate for real. But if you want to see truly unusual animal behavior, look here. These hairless, soft pink babies are newborn shrews. Their childhood is short. To survive, they must grow quickly and learn to hunt. They need to eat 80–90% of their body weight every day. which means they must feed every 3 hours or die from starvation. For now, they drink rich maternal milk, but after just 2 weeks they grow too large and the mother's milk runs out. The moment comes when they must learn to navigate the forest. It's time for one of the strangest training rituals in nature. The mother leads the way, and the young shrews bite onto the tail of the one in front, forming a real train. But this is not a game, it is the only exploration of unfamiliar territory they will ever have. Scientists call this movement a caravan. The goal is simple. The faster the young learn the forest, the higher their chances of survival. Their vision is poor, so they rely on smell and touch. Within hours, they will be on their own, and then no insect in the forest will be safe from them. Birds also know how to bend the rules. Before you lies the tropical rainforest of Ecuador, home to more than 130 species of hummingbirds, including the sword-billed hummingbird. Behind its innocent appearance hides one of the most skillful deceivers in the tropics. To get food, this tiny bird does something truly outrageous. Hummingbirds are capable of incredible aerial maneuvers. They make up to 80 wing beats per second, allowing them to hover and move in any direction. But such ability comes at a high cost. The sword-billed hummingbird, like any other hummingbird, must eat twice its own body weight every single day. If a human had the same metabolism, they would need to drink 3 energy drinks per minute just to avoid dying from exhaustion. Over millions of years, hummingbirds struck a literal deal with plants. Flowers produce nectar, and the birds, feeding on it, carry pollen and help plants reproduce. But every flower has a strictly limited supply of nectar, meaning access to it is a constant battle. Each hummingbird species has its own trick to get this sugary fuel. For example, the tiny purple-throated hummingbird compensates for its size with clever deception. Most hummingbirds are terrified of bees. A single sting can kill them. So the purple-throated imitates the buzzing of bees with its wings to scare others away until it reaches the flower. Others rely on speed, strength, or agility. But none of them break the contract with plants, except the sword-billed hummingbird. It behaves like a true rebel. While others gather nectar honestly, the sword-billed does something different. It doesn't enter the flower at all. Instead, it flies to the base of the bloom and pierces a hole right where the nectar collects. This gives it easy access to food, but it doesn't pollinate the flower. In essence, it breaks the agreement that all the other birds follow. The ingenious sword-billed hummingbird avoids competition and gains access to any nectar easily and effortlessly. But all of this is overshadowed by a spectacle that takes place every year in North America. These enormous birds fly precisely here. The young follow the adults to a special beach in the Gulf of California. They arrive at the perfect moment. The tide is at its peak, revealing a shore covered in fish and eels. The fish strand themselves on purpose. They do it to reproduce. Females, moving backward with their tails, burrow into the sand and lay eggs. Males wrap around them and fertilize the eggs. They spawn high above the tidal line, safe from marine predators. Days later, the young will hatch and return to the sea. It may seem easy for pelicans to feed on fish lying on the sand, but their enormous beaks are too unwieldy to pick prey off the ground. The fish are close yet unreachable. The giants head out to hunt in the surf, while the spawning continues on the beach. When the fish return to the water, pelicans gain the advantage. They dive and hunt them the usual way. Only 2 fish species spawn like this. The second is found on the coast of Newfoundland. Up to 1 million tons of fish are thrown ashore. Their purpose is the same: reproduction. It becomes a feast for polar bears and silver gulls. Males rush to fertilize the eggs that females deposit in the sand. After spawning, most of the fish die, but their sacrifice is not in vain. The next generation gets a chance to hatch in warmer and safer conditions than in the ocean. There is so much fish that foxes even bury carcasses in the sand as reserves. Finding a safe home in the wild is an extraordinary stroke of luck. On a tiny Caribbean island, real estate is scarce. Hermit crabs use empty mollusk shells as portable homes. A shell protects them from predators. A boar can't bite through a sturdy shell to eat a hermit crab. Without a shell, the animal would die from heat or become easy prey. But the crab grows, the shell does not. Which means it has to find a larger home. Good shells are rare and scattered far apart. Sometimes the only available shell is far too big. So the small crab chooses a patient strategy. Soon, other crabs arrive, ones for whom this oversized shell is also too large, and even though they are competitors, they begin to gather only to perform something extraordinary. They line up in a perfectly organized queue, the biggest at the front, the smallest at the end. it forms a growth ladder. They create it for one purpose, a real estate exchange. After inspecting the shell, the largest crab moves in first. This triggers a chain reaction. Each crab instantly moves into the shell of the crab ahead of it. It looks so coordinated that it seems almost intentional. And so, the coasts of South Carolina become the stage for yet another strange fishing story. A highly skilled pod of dolphins takes part in this hunt, closely watched by a group of great white egrets. The birds have thoroughly studied the dolphins' behavior. This pod has developed a unique hunting strategy that relies on coordination, intelligence, and precise timing. While the dolphins perform their maneuvers, the egrets hop along the shoreline, following them closely. They know exactly when to act the moment a dolphin surfaces and pushes the fish toward the nearest bank. The egrets take their positions and get ready. And then it begins. The dolphins drive the fish onto the shore, not catching them at sea, but literally throwing them onto land. This cunning pod uses one of the most unusual feeding strategies in the animal kingdom. Together they create a powerful wave that washes fish onto the shallows. Then the dolphins leap out of the water and slide onto the sand to swallow their prey. While they gulp down the flapping fish, the egrets and other birds rush in to join the feast. This is the only place in the world where dolphins feed like this by beaching themselves, and the local birds have learned to take full advantage of it. When the water recedes, the dolphins search for new schools. Young dolphins learn the technique from adults, just as young egrets learn from their elders. Many birds have stopped hunting fish on their own altogether, relying almost entirely on the dolphins' catch. But beaching themselves is difficult and dangerous for the dolphins. This hunting method works only a few hours during low tide, when the sandbars are exposed. Most of the shoreline is covered in sharp razor-like shellfish here. A single mistake can be fatal. The dolphins must find just the right slope. Too shallow, and the fish won't be driven far enough. Too steep, and the dolphin risks getting stuck. They try to leap as far up the shore as possible, but if they go too far, they may not make it back to the water. Almost all of them strand themselves on the same side, always on the right. But this has consequences. Each time they grab a fish, they also scoop up mouthfuls of sand. Their teeth wear down, but only on one side. Over time, the teeth of older dolphins become so worn that they can no longer hunt this way and must find other methods to catch fish. Orcas are also capable of this hunting style, but they do it to catch sea lions. Sea lions cannot give birth in the ocean, so they come onto land to raise their pups. Every summer, thousands of them gather along the shores of the Valdez Peninsula in Argentina. Mothers regularly head out to hunt, leaving pups on the beach they can't swim yet. And this is exactly what the orcas, their greatest enemies, exploit. Young sea lions have no sense of danger. Birds such as giant petrels watch the orcas as well, following them closely, waiting for the moment of attack and scanning for potential victims. Orcas rely on speed and the element of surprise. Before each strike, they must burn off several tons of fat gained over the season, not an easy task. They come here every year at the same time, but the window for hunting is short and success is never guaranteed. Like dolphins, the orcas risk beaching themselves on every attempt. Orcas can hunt this way for only a few hours a day, because during low tide, rocky reefs block their access to the shore. Until the tide rises again, the pups are safe. At the start of the season, the orcas have an advantage. The young sea lions are still naive and don't recognize them as predators. If an orca manages to catch a pup, the petrels get their share of the leftovers. And today, there is plenty to go around. But the sea lion pups learn quickly. Less than half of the orca's lunges succeed, and with each attempt, the pups grow wiser. The orcas gradually lose their advantage. For several weeks, predator and prey are locked in a desperate contest, and eventually, the young sea lions win. They learn to recognize danger and avoid the killers. For the orcas, the hunting season ends until next year, but that's not a problem. They can always invent new ways to find food, thanks to their ingenuity, intelligence, and remarkable abilities. Take northern Norway, for example, where the waters stay ice-free thanks to the warm Gulf Stream. Every winter, around 1 billion herring arrive here, and the orcas follow. Up to 1,000 individuals gather in these waters, possibly the largest orca group on Earth. There is plenty of herring, but catching it is no easy task. Orcas are masters of fishing. They work together, communicating loudly to coordinate their movements. Their goal is to force the herring into a tight ball. They drive the fish upward, trapping them near the surface. And then they use their main weapon, immensely powerful tail slaps. The impact is so strong that it stuns the fish. A slap. Another slap. After that, All they need to do is pick up the helpless prey. Interestingly, the thresher shark uses a similar technique, swinging its tail at up to 80 kilometers per hour to stun fish before eating them. That's all for now. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the previous 2 episodes.